What if the vegetables you've always believed were heart healthy were actually doing the opposite? After 60, your body changes. Your metabolism slows down. Your medications react differently. And surprisingly, even common vegetables, yes, the ones you've always trusted, can quietly work against your heart when eaten the wrong way. Did you know that one of these vegetables contains more sodium than a bag of chips? Or that another can actually weaken the effects of life-saving blood thinners without you even knowing? Most seniors think they're making the right choices, but in reality, 6 everyday vegetables might be causing more harm than help. Do you enjoy raw garlic for its healing power? Have you added spinach to your morning smoothie thinking it's a superfood? Have you ever snacked on celery to lose weight? Let us know in the comments. Just type yes or no. And if you're over 60 and care about protecting your heart, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly health tips. Let's uncover these 6 surprising vegetables and discover what to eat instead to keep your heart strong. 1. Spinach, the silent disruptor of your heart medication. Do you believe spinach is always good for your heart? It's time to take a closer look, especially if you're over 60 and on blood thinners. Spinach is often praised as a superfood, rich in fiber, antioxidants, and vitamins. But here's what many seniors don't know. Spinach is also packed with vitamin K, a nutrient that plays a key role in blood clotting. For younger people, that's not usually a concern. But for older adults, especially those taking warfarin or other blood thinners, vitamin K can actually interfere with the medication's effect. What does that mean for you? If you eat a large spinach salad one day, skip it the next, then blend it into a smoothie the day after, your medication may not work consistently. This inconsistency can lead to dangerous outcomes, blood that clots too easily or doesn't clot enough. I've seen many patients who thought they were eating healthy, only to discover that their spinach-rich meals were silently weakening the power of their prescription. Now, let's be clear, spinach is not the enemy. But when you're taking heart medication, it's not just what you eat, it's how regularly and intentionally you eat it. If spinach is part of your diet, keep it consistent, eat it in moderation, and talk to your doctor. Have you ever taken blood thinners while eating spinach regularly? Type spinach in the comments if this sounds familiar. And if spinach, a food we trust, can do this, just wait until you hear what's hiding in that crunchy, salty snack sitting next to your sandwich. Let's move on to the next surprising veggie. 2. Pickled cucumbers, more salt than you think. Would you believe that something as small as a few pickle slices could silently raise your blood pressure? Pickles might look harmless, crisp, tangy, and often served next to a sandwich or burger. But behind that satisfying crunch lies something your heart may not appreciate: sodium. And lots of it. Just one serving of pickled cucumbers can contain up to 1,000 milligrams of sodium. That's almost 2/3 of the recommended daily limit for adults over 60. Sodium causes your body to retain water, increasing the volume of blood your heart has to pump. More volume means more pressure, and over time, that pressure wears down your arteries and overworks your heart. It's especially risky for seniors, whose kidneys become less efficient with age, making it harder to flush out excess salt. What's surprising is that many people pay close attention to fried food and sugar, but overlook small items like pickles, canned veggies, or healthy soups, which often carry hidden salt loads. And here's the kicker. Some brands of pickles actually have more sodium per bite than a handful of potato chips. That doesn't mean you have to give up that satisfying crunch. Try making your own quick pickles at home with vinegar, herbs, and 0 salt. It's easier than you think, and your heart will thank you for it. Do you check sodium content when buying packaged food? Comment label checker if you do, or need to start if you don't yet. Now, if salty pickles can quietly strain your heart, wait until you learn what that little red pepper can do with just one spicy bite. Let's talk about it next. 3. red chili peppers, flavor with a hidden cost. Do you love that little kick of spice in your meals? That fiery touch may be exciting for your taste buds, but it could be too exciting for your heart. Spicy food, especially red chili peppers, triggers your body to release adrenaline, which in turn raises your heart rate and blood pressure. For a healthy young person, this might not be a big deal, but for someone over 60 with stiffer arteries and a more sensitive heart, this extra stimulation can become dangerous. Over time, frequent consumption of chili peppers can lead to chronic inflammation in your blood vessels, which weakens the very highways your heart depends on. It's not uncommon for older adults to feel tightness in the chest, palpitations, or lightheadedness after eating spicy food. And most of the time, they don't connect it to what they just ate. Personally, I understand the comfort that spice brings. It's tied to memories, culture, and family meals. But you don't need fire to enjoy your food. Gentler options like cooked garlic, fresh ginger, turmeric, or rosemary can add deep flavor without straining your heart. Do you enjoy spicy food often? Comment "spicy lover" if that's you. And remember, it's not about giving up all the foods you love. It's about learning how your heart reacts now, because your body today may respond very differently than it did 30 years ago. If chili peppers can fire up your system this way, the next vegetable might surprise you even more, because it can silently thin your blood to a dangerous level. Let's take a closer look. 4. Raw garlic. When natural medicine goes too far, garlic is powerful, but what happens when that power becomes too much? For centuries, garlic has been praised for its healing properties. It lowers cholesterol, supports heart health, and even acts as a natural antibiotic. But there's one thing many seniors don't know. Raw garlic is also a natural blood thinner. That might sound like a good thing, especially if you're trying to support your heart. But if you're already taking warfarin, aspirin, or other anticoagulant medications, combining them with raw garlic can lead to excessive thinning of the blood. And when your blood is too thin, your risk of internal bleeding goes up. You may not notice it at first, but signs like frequent nosebleeds, dizziness, or black stool could be warning flags your body is waving. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Nutrition confirmed that while garlic offers heart benefits, overconsumption, especially in its raw form, can pose risks for elderly patients with cardiovascular conditions. Another concern: raw garlic can lower your blood pressure suddenly, which can cause lightheadedness or even fainting if you're already on medication for hypertension. Now, I'm not saying you should throw garlic out of your kitchen. It's still a wonderful ingredient, but like all powerful things, it needs to be handled with care. Use it cooked, in moderation, and always check with your doctor if you plan to use it daily. Do you eat raw garlic regularly? Comment "raw garlic" if yes, or "cooked only" if you prefer it sautéed or roasted. Next up, we're moving from bold flavors to a vegetable that looks completely innocent, but may quietly be interfering with your medication and your heart's rhythm. Let's talk about eggplant. 5. Eggplant, innocent on the plate, interfering in the body. Do you enjoy a hearty slice of eggplant parmesan? That soft, comforting texture and rich flavor? It may look innocent on your plate, but inside your body, it could be causing more than just satisfaction. Eggplant belongs to the nightshade family and contains alkaloid compounds similar to solanine. While harmless in small amounts, these compounds can interact with certain heart medications, especially calcium channel blockers and diuretics, which are commonly prescribed for high blood pressure and heart failure. For some seniors, this means unexpected side effects like dizziness, lightheadedness, or even sudden drops in blood pressure. And because eggplant is often grilled or fried, eating it in large amounts may also trigger inflammation, which puts extra strain on your blood vessels and heart. Here's the part many people miss. It's not the eggplant itself that's harmful. It's how your body reacts to it, especially when combined with certain medications or when consumed too often. From my experience, you don't have to give it up entirely. Eggplant can still be part of a healthy diet. But, like all things, moderation is key. Avoid large portions, especially in fried or heavily seasoned dishes, and pay attention to how your body feels afterward. So, tell me, eggplant, love it or leave it? Type your answer in the comments below. Now, if eggplant can surprise you like this, wait until you learn about a vegetable that many seniors snack on daily, thinking it helps them lose weight, when in fact, it may be raising their blood pressure. Let's talk about celery. 6. Celery, the healthy. Snack that isn't always celery juice for detox. Sounds trendy, right? But here's something that might surprise you. It might raise your blood pressure instead of helping it. Celery is often labeled as the perfect zero-calorie food, ideal for weight loss and heart health. But the reality is more complicated, especially for seniors. Let's start with this. Celery contains natural sodium. While it's not as salty as chips, that sodium still matters, especially if you're salt sensitive, which many seniors are without knowing. Even moderate intake can lead to elevated blood pressure, particularly in older adults who already struggle with cardiovascular concerns. Celery also acts as a natural diuretic. That might sound like a good thing, but over time, it can cause fluid loss and dehydration, which may disrupt your heart's rhythm and make you feel weak, dizzy, or fatigued. The problem? Many people eat it in large amounts or juice it daily, believing it's completely harmless. But in truth, too much of even a good thing can be harmful, especially when it's out of balance with your body's needs. So, what can you do instead? You don't have to ditch celery entirely, just be mindful. Have it occasionally in small servings, and try to pair it with potassium-rich foods like avocado or sweet potato to help balance your electrolytes. Have you ever tried a celery detox or added it to your smoothies? Comment "tried it" or "never tried" below. Now, after talking about these surprising heart stressors, you might be wondering, so, what should I eat to actually protect my heart? Let's explore the heart-friendly veggies you should include in your diet. Coming up next. Heart-loving alternatives. What to eat instead. Your heart deserves more than fear. Let's build a plate it can trust. After going through so many don'ts, it's time to talk about the delicious do's. Because protecting your heart isn't just about avoiding danger. It's about adding the right support. Let's start with some heart-loving vegetables that are safe, gentle, and deeply nourishing for people over 60. Steamed broccoli. It's rich in sulforaphane, which helps reduce inflammation in blood vessels and arteries. Roasted carrots, loaded with beta-carotene and fiber. They support your blood vessels and improve overall circulation. Sweet potatoes. Naturally high in potassium, they help balance sodium, which is essential for blood pressure control. Cooked tomatoes. Heating brings out lycopene, a powerful antioxidant linked to better artery health and reduced heart risk. Cooked kale. Unlike raw kale, cooking it helps release its fiber and antioxidants more gently, making it easier to digest while still supporting cholesterol balance. These foods don't just protect your heart, they also make your plate vibrant and satisfying. You can flavor them with herbs like rosemary and turmeric, or add a touch of olive oil and lemon juice for freshness and heart health. And the best part? You don't need to cut out everything you love. Healthy eating isn't about strict rules, it's about balance. So, which of these veggies will you try adding this week? Comment below, and let's inspire each other toward better health. Now that we've built a heart-loving plate together, let's wrap things up and remember what truly matters in this journey to a stronger heart. Let's recap. You've just discovered 6 vegetables that might quietly be working against your heart after 60, no matter how healthy they seem on the surface. The truth is, it's not just what we eat, but how we eat it, when, and with what else. Even the most natural foods can become risky when mixed with age-related conditions or medications. But here's the hopeful part. It's never too late. Your heart is resilient. With just a few mindful swaps, simple choices made consistently, you can reclaim your energy, your rhythm, your life. So here's your gentle challenge for today. Pick just one vegetable from this list and swap it for a heart-friendly option. One step. That's how true transformation begins. Someone you love might be eating these veggies, not realizing the risks. Send this video to them, just in case. If this video brought you value, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and hit subscribe. It truly helps us share more helpful content made just for seniors like you. And tell us, what health topic would you like us to cover next? We're here to listen, learn, and support you. Until next time, stay informed, stay healthy, and take care of your beautiful heart.